Welcome everyone! Today we're diving straight into a fascinating explainer on a module called The Heart of Service, Mastering Self-Leadership. You know, when we think about improving client relations, it's so easy to just focus on the external stuff, right? We talk about streamlining communication, fixing service pipelines, or, buying some fancy new CRM software. But the material we're unpacking today takes a completely different route. It's a total inside-out philosophy. The big idea here is that you literally cannot optimize how you interact with the world until you've optimized how you manage yourself. It's wild, but it makes so much sense. We're going to break down exactly how this works and see how self-leadership completely transforms our professional interactions right at a baseline psychological level.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped to think about what drives the ultimate customer experience? Seriously, think back to the absolute best client interaction you've ever had, either giving the service or receiving it. What really made it click? We usually point to efficiency, or, expertise, but behavioral science tells us there is something way deeper going on. Research consistently shows that we humans are just incredibly good at subconsciously detecting authenticity. It's all about those mirror neurons and how fast we process microexpressions. Basically, clients instantly know if you're being genuine or if you're just putting on a transactional performance. So the real question is, what's the internal engine that actually generates that authentic ultimate experience?
That brings us to Section 1, the ultimate customer experience.
The source material points to something that might surprise you. It says the absolute, non-negotiable key to achieving that external customer success is strictly internal. It's self-leadership. And honestly, this requires a pretty massive mental shift, because delivering the ultimate experience isn't really about managing the customer's emotions at all. It's entirely about managing your own internal landscape first. Let's think about why for a second. In high-stakes or stressful situations, our brains are basically wired to react defensively. If a client gets frustrated, your fight or flight response just kicks in automatically, right? And boom, communication breaks down. Well, self-leadership intervenes right at that exact flashpoint. By developing a strong internal locus of control and regulating your emotions, you literally intercept that biological reflex. You establish this calm, grounded baseline, and it's only from that stable foundation that you can even begin to build an exceptional customer experience.
Moving into Section 2, let's officially define self-leadership.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it places self-leadership right at the absolute center of the entire training module. Everything, and I mean everything, orbits around this one psychological capability. Think of it kind of like a planetary system. All those external tasks you do every single day, the negotiations, the handshakes, answering the endless emails, those are just satellites. They literally cannot maintain a stable orbit without the immense gravitational pull of a strong internal core. That's why this module doesn't just start by giving employees a script of what to say. The dialogue is just a satellite. Instead, it starts by training you on how to lead your own mind. That internal gravity has to be solid before a single word is spoken to a client. Because if that core is weak, the whole service experience is just going to drift off course.
Let's unpack this specific micro-definition they give us. The text states that self-leadership is the practice trained employees apply when dealing directly with customers. Notice that phrasing? This isn't some abstract philosophy you only use while meditating in a quiet room. No, this is self-regulation in action, deployed right on the front lines, in real time. So what does that actually look like? Imagine a super high-value client calls you, and they are just furious about a shipping delay that was completely out of your hands. An untrained mind goes straight into an amygdala hijack. You immediately want to get defensive, shift the blame, or just shut down entirely. But self-leadership? That lets you use cognitive reframing in a fraction of a second. You separate your ego from their anger, you regulate your own stress, and you pivot seamlessly into empathetic problem solving. It acts as the deliberate, active bridge between your internal mindset and the customer's external reality.
All right, on to Section 3, responsibility and accountability. And this brilliantly illustrates how these two conceptual pillars are just totally linked together. You've got taking up personal responsibility on one hand and accountability on the other. To truly master self-leadership, we have to understand the difference between them and how they work together. Personal responsibility is entirely about owning your psychological state. It means taking full ownership of your attitude, your focus, and your mindset in the present moment, no matter what external chaos is happening. Accountability, though, is about answering for the tangible outcomes of your actions over time. To put this in perspective, let's say a project deadline gets suddenly moved up. Responsibility is making the active, internal choice to stay calm rather than panicking. Accountability is actually making sure that revised timeline is met and clearly communicating the new plan to the client. So one is the mindset, right? And the other is the measurable result. Put them together and you've got the absolute bedrock of a self-led professional. Let's pause the momentum here for just a second. I want you to treat this moment like a mirror. Ask yourself, are you taking up personal responsibility in your client interactions? The psychology of blame is a powerful, powerful thing. Whenever a conversation gets tense or a systemic issue pops up, our ego's default setting is usually to look outward. We want to blame the software, the bureaucracy, or sometimes even the client for not understanding. But true internal mastery demands that you look inward first. Do you instantly take ownership of how you handle that friction? Do you regulate your own frustration before you even try to manage the clients? Honestly, your personal, unfiltered level of accountability in those tiny micro moments of stress is the ultimate true measure of your self-leadership.
Which leads us to Section 4, Service with Heart and Soul.
Let's move to this cause and effect funnel to see how it all builds together. The source outlines a progression that is structural but also highly psychological. It starts with step 1, making that conscious choice to take up personal responsibility for your own internal state. And doing that immediately triggers step 2, actively applying accountability to the external results of your actions. Now, when those two foundational steps are genuinely mastered on the inside, it flows naturally, almost inevitably, right into step 3, serving the clients with heart and soul. Notice that inevitability. The module is basically saying that this elevated, incredible level of service isn't something you can just force yourself to do on a whim. It is the natural byproduct of doing the hard internal work first. Think about it. When you don't have to waste mental energy defending your ego or deflecting blame, all of that emotional bandwidth is suddenly freed up, and you can use it to genuinely connect with the person right in front of you.
Serving the clients with heart and soul. So the crucial point here is genuine connection simply cannot be faked. You can't mandate it in a corporate policy, and you definitely can't read it lifelessly from a standardized script. Like we talked about earlier, our brains are literally wired to spot inauthenticity from a mile away. Customers pick up on tiny tonal shifts and facial microexpressions in milliseconds. But when employees are truly empowered by practicing real self-leadership, their service just transcends those basic everyday transactions. It enters this sort of flow state. It becomes deeply emotive, powerful, and authentic, simply because they aren't putting on a performance anymore. They are bringing their literal heart and soul into the interaction, and it's all supported by that rock-solid foundation of internal accountability. Believe me, the customer feels that profound difference instantly.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. How will your self-leadership shape the customer's experience moving forward? For me, the most empowering takeaway from this entire module is that the heart of exceptional service doesn't actually begin with the customer at all. It begins entirely with you. Master your own internal landscape, fiercely embrace true accountability, and just watch how significantly it elevates every single external interaction you have. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope you leave this deep dive feeling equipped and inspired to apply this inside-out philosophy to your own professional journey, starting today.